and let us all do we can to build a better future.
You, Kira, you got a story for the people. What is going on?
As always, these ballot initiative stories are a little bit of a roller coaster ride. And we are on a staycation this week because we are talking about the great state of Illinois.
Land of Lincoln.
Woo!
Home to the city of Chicago.
Hold on to your hats, kids.
And Springfield, Illinois, and the Quad Cities, and...
I was going to say the Quad Cities is in Illinois, but half is in Illinois. Half in Iowa.
Half in Illinois.
I lived in the Iowa half.
Iowa. Okay. What's another city? Urbana-Champaign.
Yeah, Urbana. Yeah,
Urbana.
Yeah, that's right. That's where University of Illinois is, right?
Yeah, and we got Skokie.
There's Peoria.
Peoria.
That's where I went to school.
Fox Lake.
Fox Lake's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So, welcome to our home state, folks. Kira, what are our ballot initiatives
of Illinois? So just a little background on the Illinois ballot initiatives. In 2022, 363,813 signatures are required for initiatives in Illinois. Pardon me, I had a little soda water, a little bubbly came up. The signature requirement is based on 8% of the votes cast for governor in 2018. Signatures for initiatives that proponents intended for the election on November 8th, 2022 must be filed on or before May 8th, 2022. Unfortunately, there are no ballot initiatives right now that there's still an opportunity that they'll become. We have one ballot initiative on the ballot for 2022 and no other contenders right now. So there is that. But I will give you a little bit of background on a couple that didn't make it to the ballot, because those efforts are still in action, right? Because we have another ballot coming up, in 2024. So, exactly. So just because something didn't make a ballot doesn't mean that it's over. That's very rarely how activism works. Activism works like you're going, you win or you lose, and then you're going. There's never stopping, even when we win, just so you know. So a little bit of background about Illinois and ballot initiatives. Voters approved, get this, 73% of the ballot initiatives over the last 25 years. So that's a high percentage. But what I thought was really interesting was there were actually a very low number of initiatives over the last 25 years that even made it to the ballot. So I find that interesting. 11 in 25 years.
Wow. Has
made it to the ballot.
Okay. 11.
Okay, so that's not very many. And this is all according to ballotpedia.org. Right. Just so you guys can look all of this up. Voters approved 71% and rejected 29% of referred amendments. So altogether that would be 18 different measures. 3 advisory questions appeared on the ballot, so 21 altogether. Okay. And then this was also really interesting. 0 citizen initiated members appeared on the ballot, which I thought was really strange. And I had to do a lot for my in-laws today, so I couldn't look more into that detail because I also found that to be surprising, at best, right? Especially with a city like Chicago in the mix. So anyway, there was a lot that threw me for a loop in this story, which is crazy because this is the state I live in, and I'm like, I don't know how any of this works, right? So the one measure that is on the ballot is the Illinois Right to Collective Bargaining Amendment, which is really great. It's on the ballot in Illinois, and it will show up on our November 8th, 2022 ballot. This measure would create a state constitutional right for employees to organize and bargain collectively through representatives of their choosing to negotiate wages, hours, and safety at work. The ballot measure would also prohibit laws that interfere with, negate, or diminish collective bargaining agreements, including agreements that require union membership as a condition of employment. So Representative Marcus Evans, and he said the constitutional amendment, would prohibit a right-to-work law in Illinois. So then that means that workers in Illinois could strike safely without the fear of basically being replaced, which is really important for, unionizing and bargaining. Since that's the only ballot measure that's on this year, and and there's not really anything else that's like a possibility for the ballot right now, again, according to ballotpedia.org, I wanted to highlight some other items, one of which Roger Meadows highlighted for me and sent over to me that I found kind of confusing. And he sent me one article, and I've just been digging for more information, and I can't really seem to find the answer to my question. So, Kit, maybe you know. So the High Court in Illinois, in a 4-3 decision, affirmed the ruling by a Cook County judge who determined the ballot initiative seeking to give legislative map-making power to an independent commission instead of lawmakers didn't meet constitutional muster. It's the second failed attempt to overhaul redistricting by petition in 2 years. The ruling in the high-stakes case falling the day before an election deadline to certify fall ballots had the potential to alter Illinois' political power dynamic, where elected officials in the Democratic-leaning state run the once-a-decade process. But in a 63-page ruling, the majority justices said the measure didn't meet narrow constitutional requirements. So I think the reason I'm a little bit confused is because in the state of Illinois, our ballot initiatives show up as either advisory questions or constitutional amendments. But I got no clarification in anything I was looking at as to whether or not the redistricting ballot initiative was an advisory question or a constitutional amendment.
Here's the thing. So for our viewing audience, some of you have heard about the Chicago Democratic Machine. Well, it's also an Illinois Democratic Machine that has a lot of its roots in Chicago. It's a well-oiled machine. In the state of Illinois, the Democrats control the House, the Senate, and the governor's office.
Right.
So there's a solid majority here in the state of Illinois. What I think a lot of people are unfamiliar with is that when it comes down to our state constitution, as we've learned this during our time with being volunteers for Wolfpack, Illinois, the Senate and House have to be in full agreement on amending any part of the Constitution in the state of Illinois. They all have to agree on it. So there could be a ballot initiative, an advisory question about, hey, let's put this in the Constitution, or something to be put in the Constitution. The lawmakers have to agree on it, and the party leadership, because at the time, Madigan was running the entire Illinois Democratic Party. Not anymore, since he's not the Speaker of the House anymore, and I don't think he's not the Democratic leader of the Illinois Democratic Party anymore either. But if the party leadership is not on board with it, or is it that both party leaderships are not on board with amending any part of the Constitution, the lawmakers can vote it down, even if it has popular support. It just, certain amendments will have support if they have a corporate backer to it, or either that there's a lot of public opinion in favor of it. Like, for example, was J.B. Pritzker's progressive income tax. That's something he ran on. Now, Pritzker could not implement it because in Illinois we have a flat tax, and it's in our Constitution. In order to reverse it, you would have to do a ballot initiative to bring that question up, and
which we did,
which was successful.
Yeah.
But then we had to get our lawmakers to agree on it. But there was a whole campaign of fear.
There was a lot of campaigning around it.
And it fizzled out, and the lawmakers voted it down for the progressive income tax.
Interesting. Well, this one says, so this report said, I should have written on the website I got this from, but that it was the High Court in a 4-3 decision that knocked it down instead of the actual legislators themselves. So my question was, initially I walked into this thinking it was a constitutional amendment. And I was thinking like, and one of the things Roger Meadows brought up, and so that's one of the reasons I was like, well, let me look at if it was an advisory question or a constitutional amendment, is for a constitutional amendment, for the court to strike down something to amend the Constitution saying it's unconstitutional, doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, it doesn't.
So I guess we would have to assume it was an advisory question. And I could be really confused on all of this.
Well, see, the thing is, with Illinois laws and how our Constitution is set up and is protected by the House and Senate, it is built that way to make it confusing. That's how the system works. That's how the Democratic Party in the state of Illinois have kept a lot of control. Mind you, the Republican Party in the state of Illinois is just as corrupt. They're just more incompetent. They try to. Anyways, whole other story.
And keeping in mind, just to bring up the whole, there have only been, 21 initiatives in 25 years, right? That's...
I know.
I think that's indicating that it's kind of hard to get initiatives on our ballots.
Well, it is, and it's also, you have to have a lot of support and funding for it, and public opinion, too. All those things got to work together. Take, for example, cannabis legalization in our state. We got it for recreational use, which is a phenomenal job. But remember how it first came up? It was on a ballot question in 2018. Would you be in support of Illinois lawmakers supporting the legalization of recreational cannabis?
Right, and that's an advisory question.
And that was an advisory question. And then there came this long campaign, and in 2020 of January is when it fully became legal to purchase and sell recreational cannabis.
So voters were aligned, legislators were aligned.
Businesses were aligned. Case in point, when we went to both those events, the Illinois Women in Cannabis event, even though the second one...
Even though it had nothing to do with women.
No, really, it didn't.
I was so mad.
It didn't. Like the first one, but here's the thing. I was at the first one. The first one, there were a lot of women there.
Yeah.
There were a lot of women entrepreneurs there and everything. The second one, the one we went to...
Yeah.
No bueno.
No, it was not good. But I did show up there being woo, women in cannabis, that's me. And then I saw you guys, and that's how this whole faded thing occurred.
And that's also where I mentioned, the first party was really good. You would have really liked that because they were serving food and everyone was smoking weed. Because I made the joke, hey, it's a cannabis event. Where's the cannabis? And as soon as I was going to say it out loud, someone passed me a joint. I was like, oh, well. Shut my brain up before I said anything. There you go. Anyways, so if there's going to be a ballot initiative in the state of Illinois, lawmakers got to be behind it. A lot of key lawmakers got to be behind it. The leadership has to be basically indifferent, so long as you get corporate support as well as public opinion,
and then
the
obviously the Cook County. Or not Cook County judges, but just the Supreme Court in general. Yeah, Supreme Court in general.
And so when Roger Meadows was messaging me about, ballot initiatives in our state and how confusing it is and how our Constitution's screwed, this is the system. And so during this election year, what's really going to be important, especially for something that's going to be ignored, but we got to cover it, the State Central Committee. These are the people that will be appointing who will be the next leader of the Democratic Party. Because if we get enough progressives in the SCC, they could pick a progressive, maybe independent person to be the leader of the Democratic Party. Now, again, Democratic establishment has the Illinois Democratic machine, Chicago Democratic machine, has its hands in a lot of levers
all
and doing everything
place,
here to where it is difficult for progressives and independents to really make an impact. And also, case in point too, I don't know if it's still the same now as well, but in 2020, third parties were finally able to get some relief in regards to collecting ballots, signatures, so that it would be difficult for them to be on the ballot or on the debate stage. Of course, there's a lot of roadblocks to them, but in the state of Illinois, there's a lot of roadblocks to really stop much needed change. Ballot initiatives are possible, but you need a lot of things supporting them.
I was pretty shocked when I was doing this research. So there, in 2020, 62 out of 138 state legislative races on the ballot were uncontested. There were 10 out of 20 uncontested races in the Senate and 52 out of 118 in the House. That means almost half the people serving in our state government will represent Illinoisans, but because they were elected but not because they were elected, because they, or had to present their policy ideas to voters, through debate and through outreach, but only because they submitted the proper forms to the Illinois State Board of Elections, which is what all this gerrymandering creates in our state and several other states. And in 2018, get this, 82%, pardon me, of the state legislative races were uncompetitive. And in previous election cycles, the percentage of uncompetitive races has exceeded 90%. So this gerrymandering, what this ballot initiative was supposed to speak to, was supposed to shut that down. And it was actually something that Governor Pritzker ran on and did not speak up about when all of this happened. So he let it pass.
Yep.
We are continuing the way it's always been, which is highly unworkable. If you look at the districts of Illinois, they are insane looking.
Yep.
And if you have to canvass them, oh my God.
Yes, and we've done that before.
So anyway,
Oh, by the way, Miguel H., new homework assignment. Not only do you have to make a jigsaw puzzle of Chicago's districts, but now for the whole state of Illinois, because you were late on your assignment.
yeah. All right, here we go. So anyway, that was a ballot measure that narrowly missed making it onto the ballot. And then, the last ballot measure I want to say is sort of like a shameless plug, because I'm always shamelessly plugging this ballot initiative, which is the ranked choice voting. There is a strong organization, strong force behind that in the state of Illinois. Right now, the efforts for ranked choice voting are moving to basically like the suburbs of Chicago to start to get municipal elections, municipalities doing ranked choice voting, so that slowly that idea starts to spread. People start getting really acquainted with ranked choice voting, and seeing like that there is another way of doing elections outside of this outrageously rigged, we'll call it a duopoly, but we all know it is a one-party rule situation in this country. So,
welcome to the state of Illinois. But I will say this for ballot initiatives, especially for ranked choice voting, if enough people are, especially in the local small towns and cities, and even here in Chicago, if we're able to get more people to accept ranked choice voting and be on board with it, if public opinion is at a high level for it, there's a very good chance it will pass.
I think it will eventually pass. Same with this.
But the key things are voter turnout.
That's right.
That's what will be fundamentally important.
So if you want to get involved and you're in the state of Illinois, Change Illinois is the organization spearheading the effort to stop gerrymandering in our state. And then Fair Vote Illinois is the organization pushing to create ranked choice voting in our state. So next week, we're just going to take a little jog over to the great state of Missouri, and they've got a boatload to talk about. Missouri always they bring it, man.
All right, Missouri.
I can't wait to
All right,
talk
Missouri,
about that.
you better be ready. You better be ready.